I watched Straw and Sinners recently. I think with my channel, I want to sort of go back and forth between watching things that are like quite popular, but also things that are more like indie or weird or stuff like that. Because obviously all of this ultimately is to grow, but I also want to expand my sort of repertoire of what is good and bad as far as movies to eventually improve my own writing. Because my goal ultimately, whether YouTube goes well or not for me, is to become a better writer and have my own stuff made as far as like movies and TV shows go. So with that being said, I have no idea where I found this movie. I know pretty much nothing about it, except I briefly saw that it has no dialogue or no sound or something like that. Something along those lines. But I love movies where the entire movie has no dialogue, so it has to completely rely on the actor and the stage presence of everyone involved as far as like the acting goes. It's also just a difficult way to tell a story, so when it's done right, it feels very beautiful. Anyway, let's start it. Art is a medium for the transmission of emotions. It is not difficult then to determine for yourself at least whether a work of art has failed or succeeded. It was intended for you. That's how I feel about art as well. And I feel like, especially after just talking about what I want from my channel and my own art, feels very fitting. Are the only judge. I enjoyed Dementia. It stirred my blood, purged my libido. The circuit was completed. The work was a work of art. Whether you like it or not will depend entirely upon the permeability of your emotional shell, your idioplasm, and your previous conditions of servitude. It is not important. You know what? I kind of fuck with that. I feel like that's how most people should view art. Whether I like something or not, there's nobody on earth who defines taste. You know, movies and everything like that are completely up to what your tastes are. No one can tell you what tastes good. The same way that like no one can tell you whether you like a movie or not. That's completely personal, blah, blah, blah. Like obviously like there's things that like when you put them together will typically taste good because like there's a chemical reaction and there's a sort of like mechanical way to tell a story, you know, typically the hero's journey, but that doesn't mean that it will be good or palatable to everybody. It just means there's a formula to it that you can access if you want, but it's all up to you ultimately, or the person making the thing, or how the person receiving the thing feels about it. This reminds me so much of the old Twilight Zone. When I was growing up for a little bit, we didn't have cable, so Twilight Zone would just kind of come on TV depending on, I forget what channel or whatever. I would wake up and it would be background noise, and it just had this like very weird and otherworldly sort of background noise, and like this has a very similar vibe to it. So I wonder if that's what this movie is, because like we're finding out what this movie is about at the same time. We'll figure it out with each passing moment together, because I have no idea. I can't tell if she's having a nightmare or a good time. I need to make sure whether or not I can keep this scene in the YouTube video. Okay, definitely a nightmare. Whenever I watch a movie that's like super old, because this movie came out in 1955, it breaks my heart to think about the fact that everyone in the movie is probably dead, including that water. You know what I mean? That was a terrible joke. I'm sorry. I'll get back to the movie. Damn, that's a fire ass chain. That's huge as hell. That's like rapper levels of big ass chain. Just what the modern woman of the 1950s needs: a jack, some whiskey, and her Bible. Well, that was just a waste of a cigarette. I don't even smoke, and that kind of upset me. whenever I watch an old movie, it kind of always trips me out that, like, not that everyone's dead. I know I already made that joke, but like, whenever I watch an old movie and I see a woman who I find attractive, I'm always like, damn, somebody's grandma was a baddie. She was fine. God damn. Which is crazy because she definitely would have called me a hard R if I like even glanced in her direction. So for a movie that has no dialogue, I am quite enthralled. So that is telling me quite good signs that I will find this movie enjoyable. Because there's definitely a right way and a wrong way to do a movie with no speaking in it, which I am quite entranced, honestly. Like, there's just something about like that sort of ethereal Twilight Zone style music that's like drawing me in, and that harp or whatever is just going and just keeping pace with her acting and like her body language with everything. I have no idea what's happening, but it's a tell that she is a phenomenal actress, that like her body language is leaving me mesmerized. I have no idea what's happening, and yet I can't look away. Also, something I do love about older movies is they all do a really good job of portraying a scene, you know, like maybe it's because it was like the golden age of movie making and there was still a lot of artistry and stuff because it was a new art form behind it. The way that they build a scene was always spectacular, like her being centered in frame, you know, she just walked out of her apartment. It gives so little in this scene and yet it tells you so much that, like, because it is giving so little, you don't know what's happening, but neither does she is just as confused as we are, and that's just like, it's just good. I don't even know, I think just it's the early days of this medium, so maybe it was like budgeting or just like lack of resources, or like you had to make do with what you got, but like just this frame, I like it. There's nothing more to say. I like it. Oh, that ain't nothing. You should see the bruises I leave on my wife at home. Is she dead, or does no one have peripheral vision in this movie? Obviously, they're not a modern invention, but I low-key was not expecting to see a little person in a movie from the 1950s. I don't know. I just wasn't expecting it. I don't know. I feel like during this time period, they were like beating kids for being left-handed. So the fact that like there's a little person with like a relatively normal job in a movie, I guess I just wasn't expecting it. Is it socially appropriate to say little person? Just a little police brutality. Hey, my man. I just had a cop beat up a mentally deranged homeless dude for offering me a drink. He is currently being beat to death. I think you need to step aside, King. You don't want no smoke. I'm a white woman in the 50s. The world's kind of my oyster right now. Huh. I was gonna make a joke that don't go with him. He's going to try to pimp you out, but I didn't expect to be right. Crazy. The first time you see a black person, it's to please white people. Like, I get it, it's the 1950s, whatever. Is she just kind of like a sugar baby now? Like, what is. I guess that's kind of the point of the movie, is that, like, we're figuring out everything along with her, kind of thing. Like, she's just kind of going from space to space in a haze. Seeing that much thigh and leg and foot has changed his absolute life. He can't go back to a woman in a pantsuit now. A pencil skirt? No, no, it's over. I think I'm starting to piece together what this movie might be trying to convey. I could be wrong, but it seems to be, the movie seems to be sort of a woman. I'm assuming she stabbed her husband, like it was a mysterious stabbing. Like she stabbed maybe like a man who abused her or harmed her in some way. And it's just kind of a telling of her life, of sort of men having their way with her in a way. You know what I mean? Because like every man in the movie has kind of been abusive, harassed her in some way. I guess other than that, like that little dude, little person, basically everybody else has just been like incredibly toxic sort of masculinity depiction of a man. And I'm assuming this movie is sort of telling a story of her trauma. Well, this is 1950, so that was before trauma was invented, but like it's just sort of telling like the pain that she has endured at the hands of men, I'm thinking. Okay, I think I might have been right on the money on that one. What you mean that's your mama? Your mama was a baddie. What the hell was she doing with that ogre? God damn. You know what? Maybe incels have a point. Maybe we should go back to the days where incredibly attractive, beautiful women had no choice and had to date ugly dudes. Like, God damn. We need to return back to tradition. Kinda had a feeling that's what that was going. Is that the mysterious stabbing that they're talking about? She stabbed her father after he shot her mother for cheating? What a twist. Is he looking at the food or the man? I don't know why, but this scene goes so hard for some reason. This bulbous fucking grimace of a man just kind of superimposed, like in the foreground while she's in the background looking just disgusted after watching this man polish off a three-piece. I'm confused. Wasn't there a butler there? Oh, never mind. I'm also confused now, too. Those heels she's wearing aren't that big, but she sure as hell can run in them. Wait, so she did kill him. But this is also the 1950s, so honey, all you gotta do is pick up like 10 of those dollars and move to the next town over. You'll be good for like ever. Like they will never find you. Just move a town over. Says she could have just cut off his fingers. Like, why'd you cut off his entire whatever? Okay, I'm not gonna knock the hustle. So I do think that like my assumption or theory about this movie just kind of being about this woman who has tremendous amounts of trauma and emotional pain that was dealt to her by the hands of men over and over again, just sort of getting a little bit of payback. But like this is the 1950s, so there's only but so much payback she can get, you know, in a world where women can't have credit cards. That dog, I don't know if that was on purpose or if it was a paid actor, but goddamn, that dog came in clutch. It had to be somebody's dog. That was timed too perfectly. Also, I think this entire scene, but also this entire movie, really is just a depiction of women being kind of tortured and demeaned and disrespected in a world ran by men kind of thing. I think is like the overall message, because we only see like a handful of women, but the women who we do see are very brief, and when we do see them, they're harassed or sexualized by the men around them, and they just kind of have to take it or suffer more abuse. And I think that is kind of what the movie is inherently trying to depict, is that like these women aren't treated as people. And I mean, we could have a conversation about like how historically, while yes, women, white women specifically, were treated as second class citizens, but they were at least citizens. You know what I mean? Like other races of women weren't even considered people. And that's not to detract or take away from women, like white women and stuff like that, and their struggle in general. But I think it is the nature of like a silly person to just consume a thing, but also not look at things through a lens of context or historical nuance. And I know I bring politics into a lot of like my movie analysis, but like it's my goddamn channel, you know what I mean? But also to analyze art, it requires some level of introspection, context, and nuance and stuff like that. And to look at a movie from the 1950s, and sure, like we can just view it as like it was a different time kind of thing. But I would be remiss as to not always give my perspective as a person of color and as a writer if I didn't also think about those things. I think my overall point is it is interesting to watch a movie from this time period, and the overall point being, look how this woman specifically, the main character, but also women in general, are treated and disrespected and sort of treated as just like objects of desire in a time period where black women, non-American women, hell, even like some other flavors of white women weren't even really considered people or even as valuable as like an American born white woman kind of thing. I just always has found it interesting growing up to watch movies like that, where the point of the movie is like these personal struggles that people are having, but also during this time period there's quite large groups of people who aren't even considered human, you know what I mean? So it's almost difficult at times to sympathize with the main characters or their struggles, and it's like, okay, but what about these like large swaths of people you don't even consider human? what was the point in taking his hand if you were just going to give it to that other woman anyway? Though I do think that's a badass scene. Like, I think they were in her own way, and because this is a movie with no dialogue, I can make all the analysis and assumptions I want. But I think that was her own way, or like the story's way of being like, look what I did for us, for like women. I hurt a man who was hurting women. Like, he didn't see women as like kind of people, that he saw them as objects. Like, we got that from like the way he was staring at that dancer, how he's treated her as like an object to just be around him, just like an accessory. I think she tried to like flirt with him in a way, but he wasn't interested. He wanted to play the piano, you know, he wanted to eat. Like, at one point, like, she opened up her blazer a little bit, which I thought was like her trying to be seductive in a way. Then she got tired of his shit because like he didn't view her as anything other than like an accessory to be bought. One random thing I just love about old movies is that like you can see the cuts in the film, like the footage. So like he just randomly took 2 steps forward, and it was just like a small thing that I would never accept in a modern film, but kind of adore in older movies, that adds a bit of like authenticity to it in a weird way. From this angle, he kind of looks like George Clooney. He's long dead, but it's hard to watch another man live your dreams, you know what I'm saying? Alright, forget all of my analysis. I think this woman is just mentally ill and needs some help. Kiss my ass, this is all a dream. Like, this is 1955, so that trope isn't like incredibly overdone, but this is 2025, so kiss my ass. Never mind, maybe it wasn't all a dream. Maybe she just cut off his hand and went straight home. Well, that's it. I don't have a whole lot as far as like, I kind of gave everything that I had as far as like commentary goes as I actively reacted to it. I kind of like that movie though. It's only like an hour long. It's a good watch. There's a lot to take in as far as like just an appreciation for set design and like mise-en-scene and stuff like that, which is always nice. It's like to be able to tell a story. And movies that like do something interesting like this, that like don't have dialogue or something like that, it kind of feels like one of your senses is taken away, so like everything else is heightened in a sense, that like you actively pay more attention to other things that are happening. And because it is difficult to tell a story with no dialogue, and because you, the audience, are paying more attention, you are hyper paying attention, so to be able to do it well makes it even more important, and if you don't, it makes it even more apparent. I think it was really interesting. I don't know where I found this movie from. Like, it might have been on a list. I might have saw it or like heard someone talk about it briefly, and I was like, because I'm always looking for new movies. If anyone has any like weird or interesting movies that like I should like watch or react to, please let me know. I'm always looking for like to expand and like learn and just like immerse myself in this craft of storytelling to improve my own work. But like, it's just fun to like watch like a weird movie you've never seen. Not that this movie is incredibly weird or anything like that, but like just like an interesting film that like shows off the artistry of the medium is just nice. So I appreciate it. Like, I learned a bit of things. Like, I wouldn't say it was like my favorite movie, but like the sound was awesome, you know, especially for like the time period. The scenes, they probably could have shot it on like the same 2 or 3 blocks, but it felt like this expansive sprawl of a city still, you know what I mean? Like, at the beginning of the movie, it looks like, and I can't tell for certain, but it looks like the city was drawn on and like only her window and the light was real. Like, I'd have to go back, but like that was super cool, and I thought that was interesting. I just forgot to comment on it as I was seeing it. It reminded me of like Looney Tunes a little bit, but regardless of all that, this was a really cool movie. If you haven't seen this movie, you should definitely watch it for yourself. Like, even if I spoil it for you in this, I think it's just an interesting watch to see what filmmaking can be, because of the way society is, filmmaking has, not every movie of course, but filmmaking has become like everything else, this sort of like commodified thing that it doesn't have any more artistry behind it. It's like mass produced cupcakes. It's like there's a very specific formula, a lot of people like that formula so they don't deviate from it, blah blah blah. It's safe, like, but they aren't doing anything interesting for the most part. There's a lot of reboots, remakes, and sequels, and I get personally tired of those. So like I'm always looking for, even if it's older movies, something to sort of like cleanse the palate in a sense, because like even a good movie, it's kind of like almost upscale fast food. Even if it's like better than McDonald's by a great margin, a lot of good movies nowadays still feel like fast food in the sense that like there isn't a whole lot of artistry behind it, you know what I mean? And that's not to knock a lot of modern movies or that like most modern movies are bad. It just, again, like they're safe, a studio production company, they know what they're getting, and they typically have a good idea of like how an audience will respond, and like they'll recoup and even profit from a reboot, a remake, or a sequel. It's just, it is what it is kind of thing. I'm not knocking the hustle. Yes, I am. But regardless, I'm always happy to, you know, cleanse my palate or just like see something I haven't seen before and done in a way that I haven't seen it. You know, it reminds me that like just because things can feel stale right now, that they don't have to be. On that note, I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope my analysis or rambling or whatever brought you some sort of entertainment or made you laugh or made you think. I hope it did something for you. That out of the way, I never know how to end these, so peace.